Okay. Well, good morning. First of all, I would like to apologize for this undue delay, which was completely unexpected. But as Madam Rajeshwari said, entrepreneurship is all about expecting the unexpected and then creating our way through it. So today was the best way to demonstrate that in the face of technology, which we're
Yes, yes.
trying to get used to. Thank you so much, ma'am, for that positive tone to this whole development of
Yes, sir.
we lost about 25 minutes. Today's session on pre-incubation to scaling up of startups is pure and experimental and experiential intervention that we have gone through that I'm going to share. What does this mean? There is no theory, and I'm not going to talk about the theory. I'm only going to talk about what has worked, what hasn't worked, what are some of the challenges that we face, and how that can be sort of used as a learning to shorten the learning curve for everybody else who would like to take on entrepreneurship on campus. And you can always, sort of make a note of your question, so I should be able to, answer.
Hello, sir. You're not audible.
Hello.
Madam, sir is not audible, na?
Yes.
Maybe unknowingly he has muted. Maybe
No,
connection
unmute
got
only,
lost.
ma'am. Connection problem is there.
Oh
So
my
that,
God.
Can you make his video off on then? Because of I think he's not getting bandwidth, no?
That's what. If he offs his video, audio is also okay. Can you just call him and say?
Yes, yes.
Oh boy.
sir, you are audible now.
Okay,
Hello?
am I?
Yes, sir, you are
Okay.
audible now.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Let me share the screen. Okay, so you can all see the screen.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You
Okay.
can start.
Okay, great, thank you. Again, we are about 70 years old. Then we realized that we are a great undergrad education organization. Had a lot of well-known alumni, and the placements were also pretty satisfactory. But in 2008, when the market collapsed, and then we saw the dip down in the placements, we started contemplating that this is something which is a system dependent performance for an institution. What does this mean? As long as businesses run well, we naturally can expect better placements and life can go on. But we have to start looking a little bit more in terms of how else we can spread our risk and sort of enable our students who can contribute not just as an employee, but something which is beyond an employee in creation of value. So with that as a beginning, we started with KLE Center for Technology, Innovation and Entrepreneurship. The building that you are seeing is what we call as a tech park. Essentially is for the startups who have come from a pre-incubation and incubation and they are into scale up mode. And for anything that we do, we need a motive. So the motive for us was precisely the fact that we are in a place called Hubli, which is in the northern part of Karnataka, which is typically a tier 2 and a not non-metro kind of city environment. We had a lot of challenges in terms of even kickstarting our placements when it started about 15, 20 years ago. The reason is we are remotely located, we do not have enough business environment around us, and hardly anything high-tech is being discussed and practiced. And also the socio-economic, the factors that influence, which is originating from the region, were also contributing to our challenge in terms of how can we even think something beyond, placements and then go into value creation. So again, to summarize, we typically call ourselves as a tier 2 city, but not industrially as forward as some of the cities within India. So what that led to is it led to sort of a lack of opportunities for our students after their graduation. And this lack of opportunity essentially made them to migrate to a larger city. And it led to further decline in the local area competitiveness, which we could actually experience it. How so is by holding a quick survey over 3 years. And when we started KLE-CETA in 2012, we did a quick survey. 98% of our engineering graduates move out of Hubli and Dharwad region, and non-engineering graduates migrate to the extent of about 90%. So you could now understand that all the best brains have now left the place, and that is precisely the reason why we are finding it extremely difficult to even kickstart anything here in the local region. So that does question certain situational issues. So if we start something like Center for Technology, Innovation, Entrepreneurship, can it somehow impact the socio-economic conditions of Hubli and Dharwad and eventually make a dent in terms of the way we live here in terms of quality of standard and then the job opportunities? So that was unknown, and we were wondering whether that can really happen. And second, understand we have about 6,000 students on campus. So naturally, it is imperative for us to understand that the students make the best out of the experiments that we do on the campus. So how experiment of entrepreneurship and innovation leads to students' better learning experience. Now, better learning experience can be, sort of visualized in a variety of ways. One way is to sort of feel confident of developing a solution. And as you could realize that one of the, NBA's graduate attributes is to ability to solve complex engineering problems. Now, it is demonstrated that, okay, our students are capable of doing it, and they are very well placed to go into business and then start replicating their, learning successfully. And the third one is, with after all these things said and done, is there something that we can evolve as a model that can be replicated across India, because there are 100+ tier 2 and tier 3 cities in India itself. So these were some of the very basic questions that came to us. Now, why am I putting these questions is because many of you who are trying to start a campus entrepreneurship innovation culture must ask the question. The first question that anybody should ask for themselves is why we need to do something like this now. What is our, what is that looking to get out of this if we ever start something like this? Because these are very candid way of seeing the existing situation and seeing the situation where you would like to go, and then defining the path in between. Those questions led to these challenges. The challenge we were looking into, there was a lot of aspiration, there was a lot of interest, we were poised to undertake entrepreneurship and innovation, but some of these challenges, we couldn't emulate any such example that were available in India or abroad. In fact, we did visit quite a few, startup campuses across the region. Some were extremely research oriented, so naturally it was easy for them to develop the IP and then take it further in terms of startups. Some of the institutions were purely teaching learning and hardly any research, so there were absolutely nothing in terms of what we could quickly learn from and then emulate. So that was a great challenge that we had to face when we started it. And second one was campus incubation and its impact on regional economy, in fact, the socio-economic fabric of the region. We were not sure whether anything that we see that we would like to replicate. There are two remote examples. One is Stanford and the second one is MIT on the east and the west coast of the US. But there were a different gains in terms of both the institution like Stanford and MIT being research focused. So naturally, they could impact the socio-economic conditions of the region. But in the absence of that strong research culture on campus, how do we sort of leverage what we have as our strength and then take it further? That was the second challenge. And lastly, as you probably all have heard people making fun of, is anything that comes out of campus hardly works. So something that we could pinpoint and say, well, we would like to do something that these guys have done. So those kind of examples are also very far and remote, and then thus putting a whole lot more in terms of how we need to do these things. What we need to do, we were clear. How do we need to do was a big challenge in the light of these questions that we had. Now coming back to the question of starting entrepreneurship ecosystem on campus. We have seen close to about 200 institutions visit us in last 3 years to look at CTI model. Now, every such institution that comes with their management or the head of the institutions or the departments, the question that I always ask is, what is your intention behind thinking of entrepreneurship on your campus right now? What is driving you? And why do you think it is important at this point of time? Because if we do not know what could be the measure of the success of all the efforts that we put together, I mean, we would be happy with anything that we get, which definitely is not how we should be beginning with. So why talk about entrepreneurship now at this point of time, especially on the campus through the campus incubators? The first thing that we have found out is incubators have been the driving force behind the culture of disruption. I mean, I really mean when I say this. When in 2012, when we kickstarted this, we had a first tech challenge arranged in the line of a tech challenge that you see in the US. So what did we do? We borrowed 2 industry-related problems, one on the solar and one on the energy-related problem. And the third problem that we identified was something which is very simple in modifying the existing product to do something else. So with these 3 examples, we said there will be cash prizes, and then we put the posters across the campus. 6 weeks went by. 3 teams came forward and say that, okay, we want to know more about it. I mean, imagine if the campus of about 5,000 then, we had only 3 teams of 2 to 4 each could come and then say, what is this tech challenge all about? It took almost 3 more weeks for me to continue to work with them, and after the 3rd week, they vanished. None of them showed up. So our tech challenge program fell flat on the ground without leading into anything tangible. The reason was very simple. The reason was the culture of the campus wasn't really tuned to make the students think in a disruptive manner, on the innovative manner. They wouldn't really know what is expected, how do we do it, what is the process that we follow, and why do we need to do it. So, but over a period of time, fast forward 6-8 years, now I can say the culture on the campus is much different. And I'm going to give you some examples as we go along. So naturally, the campus incubators can really drive the culture of innovation on campus. And that can be actually experienced, which I am proudly saying that it is happening here. Couple of the fallout of such kind of disruption are Sankalp Semiconductor, which started with 5 people. Today they are 850 people, and over 300 crore plus of business that they do. A second one was Navya Biological, started by 2 absolutely non-Hubli people. I mean, they just walk into the campus and started the business, 2 of them. And they started what we call as the biosimilars or biomedicines, if you want to call it in a simplistic term. Today, Sankalp is acquired by HCL, and they have a big headquarters in Hubli beyond our campus. And Navya Biological, after acquisition, is being called now as Shilpa Biological, with about 185 employees, aim to hire about 1,500 more people in their 100,000 square feet of a brand new production center in Dharwad. So now you see 2 people leading into 1,500 plus job opportunities. 500 square feet place now scaled up to 100,000 square feet of place. Something that they never could claim for in terms of patents and then the IP that they created. Now today they are in the market and then have been acquired for their intellectual property developed. So now you see all this we could visualize on campus. Sankalp was exactly the similar example where with 5 it started with 30, they had to move out, and then today they are 850 plus employees. So it gives me an immense confidence in saying that it can happen in any campus, because neither the Sankalp guys are somebody that we knew, nor the Navya people who started are somebody that we knew. So it is absolutely the drive which needed a right opportunity on a campus, and that's how these two examples can represent the innovative disruption happening on the campus. Now, second item was, according to me, is incubators are the creative to help nurture ultimately commercializable innovation. Now, as I had mentioned, one of the challenges, well, we do so many projects. So what good are these projects for? Now, we know 4 students working for 1 full year, 4 man years leading into something that nobody can use. I think that's a disaster, according to me. 4 man years of smart students with the help of the faculty and the guidance and then the support system of the labs, if it is unable to even reach out to somebody that can make reasonable use of it, I think we are actually what we call, it's called a boondoggle. That means we're chewing the chew, we just keep chewing it, nothing really good comes out of it. So how do we drive and make a campus incubator as something which can ultimately help students understand that engineering is one, but making engineering useful to somebody is something that they need to learn. That is not taught in engineering. So how do we help these companies when they form eventually in the form of a startup, either by students or somebody, can demonstrate this ability of a campus incubator? One example that I can give you, BioSil Technology started by 2012 graduates, 2 of them, Sarah and then Amit. They started this with the help of 4 biotechnology students. They came up with a milk adulteration kit. Milk adulteration kit is a very simple device wherein a drop of milk in 5 of these vials that you see in the picture can let you check the milk quality for many adulterants, which are most commonly used in India. Now you can understand they had a lot of challenge in terms of packaging it, marketing it, then finding the strategy as to through whom it has to be marketed. It's a B2C product or a B2B product, but over a period of time, they hashed through all these things. And on an average, they sell about 12 to 16,000 such units at 130 rupees per piece across India. Now, their biggest customers are mothers, their biggest customers are people in North India, and of course, the dairies who now would like to incorporate this kind of testing before even the milk could come to the centers. Now understand, students, existing facilities on the campus, 2 like-minded entrepreneurs who thought that we would like to do something from campus that can be commercially viable, and that's precisely the example that I'm presenting it to you. So now BioSil has embarked on the urine testing for the right kind of protein, which is typically used for a pregnancy testing kit. But these guys went 1 step ahead, and then they have now developed an IoT-enabled urine testing, wherein it can test the protein, which can lead to further complications in women. And now they are working with the local hospital here, government hospital, for their validation. So understand, all it requires is the right kind of mindset, right kind of support, and that is precisely what I still believe the campus incubators can provide anybody else. And the third reason why we need to talk about entrepreneurship ecosystem on campuses, these have helped to sort of bring together the ideation and the viable business. We all have ideas. This is what I always tell students. Well, you always have ideas. Where these ideas go, the way they come, the way they evaporate. So somewhere, if we can create a sort of a repository where these ideas are put together, nurtured, and eventually can become a viable business, then I think we have some entity which can help. So let me show an example. Here is an example of a drone kit. It's a cardboard. It's in fact world's first cardboard drone, won many awards, and designed and developed entirely in-house. And in the process, they had filed so many patents in terms of the design of the cardboard itself, the corrugated sheet itself. Now, this has really, the drone we all think about, and the first thing that comes to our mind is pay money and get it, plastic piece of 4 rotors and then some controller. But these guys developed everything from scratch, starting from the propellers rather, and then the structural analysis, the battery power requirements, and the camera, placements and positioning, the stability of this, the landing part of it. All these things they figured out, and then they actually now could use Arduino and Raspberry Pi based, so that the cost can be minimized. Now, this was also entirely done by a company called Skycraft Aerospace right here on this campus. Again, tells us that with 6 or 7 various engineering departments in an institution like KLA Technological University, a variety of products can actually be realized from the campus. And this AHA drone kit is now being marketed as we speak. So if you look into this, why am I telling you all these things is, we need to be clear about why are we even sort of supporting or pushing for campus incubators. Once we know what is that we would like to do and then measure the outcome of those, then I think we can sell this idea much easier. Furthermore, I can also add, incubators provide great infrastructure, feedback, and mentors for the innovators in the form of one central unit wherein it can provide for variety of problems that the startups can come up with. It's not an easy job to do, to transform an idea into a product, but in the process, if you can be one single point of support for all their needs, I think the incubators have done a phenomenal job in that respect. And also, why campus entrepreneurship ecosystem? Because it is crucial for developing a wider business ecosystem in any country. Now, I understand that substantial amount of commercial activity happens through some of our startups from this Hubli center of KLACI, which was unthinkable probably 10 years ago. Now, likewise, in next 10 years, if we can at least replicate this model across India, or across any country which would like to transform themselves, I think this probably is the best way to go, because the proof is in the pudding. And the incubators pave a way for future value creation through innovation. This is very critical, especially for engineering graduates. Now, many of these engineering graduates, they quickly get their 8 semesters done, do a couple of projects, take a degree certificate, and walk away and get a job and then be in there. But according to Desh Deshpande, who is one of the very well-known serial entrepreneur coming from Hubli, do we teach them at least what does it take to create value? Why anybody should care about your engineering? Whose problem does your engineering solve? Have you solved any problem? Now understand, these are very simple questions. Have you solved any problem today? That's how maybe we should start. And whose problem did you solve? How big a problem that was? What did you do in the process of solving the problem, and how your solution was anything better than what is existing? Now understand, if we can start emulating these on campus in every project that they do, every assignment that they take, naturally this entrepreneurial thinking gets into their mind. The reason is, we still are educators here, we still are teachers here. At the end of their 4 years, when they leave this campus and go, if we can infuse this sense of confidence in them, saying that, look, in a worst case scenario, I know how to solve this problem and make my living. So my dependence on job can be minimized, and I have a better sense of freedom and flexibility to go do whatever that I like. So I think that's why I say this is very critical when we start campus incubators, because we must observe this connection between the thought in the mind of creating the value and then their innovative processes eventually coming together to develop a product for which they go outside and then find a buying customer. And till that happens, their learning is only theoretical, their learning is only book-based, and it is typically what it's been happening for the last 70 years. But I think we need to start changing in our mindset according to what I just mentioned here. Luckily for us, there is substantial government support available. In fact, we have been a recipient of some of these support systems. So and again, if we are always skeptical when we applied for these things, and we say that, well, probably we'll not get it. Because neither North Karnataka is no, nor Hubli is no. But let me tell you, I'm pleasantly surprised in so many ways on so many occasions that if we have done whatever that we have done, when we represented that through many of these proposals to some of these government support systems, we have been really supported wholeheartedly. And I can tell this to everybody, whoever is thinking of starting up something like this, do not hesitate to connect through the Institutional Innovation Council or Atal Ranking, SIH, NISP. I mean, these are all there. And we have seen the advantage in terms of financial support, in terms of material support, connectivity, network, credibility. All these can be realized and has been realized through the government support system. And this is the current information. So naturally, anybody who would like to take advantage of, they should not hesitate and then should straight away go ahead supporting it. Now, all was fine. Great aspiration, great 70-year-old history, supporting management. But the question came, how are we going to do this campus entrepreneurship? Who will trust us? I mean, are we going to just say that, okay, we are open for business by opening the door and say that, okay, you can come and build your startup here? So we were always puzzled how to do it. And this is where we did quite a bit of a study from universities across the world and some of the best known universities in India. And finally, we said that it has to be an amalgamation of all the best practices with the local flavor. And that's how we came up with. One thing that we thought was, first thing is we need to build some quick examples. Something that people can quickly relate to. So we decided the best way to create quick successes is by attracting and supporting some external entrepreneurs on our campus. So we decided, okay, about 2,000 square feet of space is now available, and we call that as CTI. And now we will have external entrepreneurs come and then start working towards it. Now the question always comes, why would anybody come here? And we are even 400 kilometers from Bangalore and 400 kilometers from Pune. So neither of these two cities are close enough for people to just say, okay, it's just a couple of hour drive, I will go and then come back. So it was a big challenge to do that. So we started with that kind of thinking, and with the help of those startups on campus, we started realizing that there is an ecosystem involved because their requirements was different. And most important and the exciting aspect of this was students started seeing somebody who they do not relate to their education being on campus. Neither they are teachers, nor they are staff members, but they are coming with the badges hanging around their neck, and then they call themselves startups. So this was an eye changer, and this is how, as I mentioned, the culture of the campus started shifting. And that learning we connected to students through basic level projects, internship, and even sometimes jobs, and then maybe co-working kind of opportunity. And that intermingling of students and external entrepreneurs led to what we call as our two-pronged model. Now, it took almost 24 months to realize that this model is working. I remember after 18 months of starting this CTI, talking to Professor Shutter, who is the Vice Chancellor of the university, that I don't think this is working because no students are coming into CTI, and I don't think we are visible to them. One thing he said, look, students need some time, and education institution does have to have patience. So just hang in there. And how right he was. Pretty soon, I started seeing some of the mechanical students walking in, some of the electronic students walking in, saying that, sir, what are these companies? How are they here? Why are they here? Just sort of curiosity. But that was the key that we wanted to sort of leverage, and that started paying for itself when the churning started. And that is why today we see over 24 student startups, come and go on the campus, and over 70 plus, external entrepreneurs. So this is doable. I mean, that's precisely what I would like to highlight. So where are we now? I mean, our major focus, as I mentioned earlier, to do everything, we need a motive. Our motive was to sort of help arrest the talent migration from Hubli and Dharwad region to bigger cities seeking better opportunities. So can we create multiple job opportunities here, especially for engineers? And that was our first, metric that we have put into. And can we produce sort of world-class products from India? And lately, from last 3 years, we have been trying to focus on VLSI and then ESDM products, thanks to one of the Pune entrepreneurs who put this bug in our head that you guys don't teach engineering in your schools. You only teach them to replicate what is in the book. He was very blunt about it, and unfortunately, he passed away 2 years ago. But he said that make your students do something. Have them break something, put something together. That is when they will really understand what does it take to sort of experience what we call as a product or a service. And how right he was. So with that kind of thought process, we started putting VLSI and ESDM because India imports close to about 4 lakh crore worth of electronic products. And some of these products, I always wonder, can we not even make them here? So with that kind of thought process, luckily for us, Sankalp in our backyard and like-minded people came through. Today we are in the area of automotive, drones, healthcare, surveillance, IoT, agrotech. So the point that I'm trying to again emphasize here is, you don't have to have such clarity. I mean, I can now talk about this clarity past 8 years, and now it is like hindsight is always 2020. But you can just start blank with 1 or 2 key ideas or strategy, objectives in your head, and strategize all your activities to have that done. And I think that is the great way to put it, because we change, we modify, we course correct, and then eventually we will hit that. So today, we have about 34,000 square feet of working space. Our focus is still on helping pre-incubation and take them to the startups. The reason is, as you could see, 18-year-old to 22-year-old come here, about 6,000 of them. So naturally, we have ample scope for pre-incubation. We take great pride in saying that we might not necessarily see, Sankalps coming up every now and then, but we know that at least about decent number of students walk away with this entrepreneurial skills or lifestyle, so that in future in their career, if they ever decide to change their working for somebody to working for self, I think this education would help. And that is what we are realizing it. Many students and faculty startups, in fact, as a policy, the university now supports the faculty starting their own startup, being a partner, being a co-founder, being a mentor, in whatever scale and form and shape that they can contribute. There is an open support for the faculty members. So we are seeing at least 7 startups having a very close association with the startups, which is a great change since the day that I had started working with CTAC. And also a lot of research centers and the center of excellence are there in the campus, because it's a university now. So there is a special effort being made in terms of connecting the outcome of this research into something tangible. Yet to happen on a large scale, but we have 2 examples that have been realized, and it's in the process of showing that, okay, we have our own way of transforming the intellectual property developed on the campus into something that is useful to the society. So what do we offer? I'm sure this question would come. Just to quickly list, I'm not going to go through the entire list here. We provide physical space, which is obviously why companies come. And then we provide great mentorship, which has evolved over the last few years, thanks to many people who worked in the industry and have moved back to Hubli and Dharwad and are willing to sort of work very closely with the startups, and they would like to mentor, they would like to be able, they would like to sort of handhold and connect with a better network of theirs. And all these things are sort of unfold right in front of you, because there is a need from the entrepreneur, there is a facilitation from the institution, and all we need to do is just transform the 2 needs and the 2 capabilities into something that is self-driving and working. So we have intellectual property segment in the campus, which will help identify the IP created, help them to get patents or trademarks, depending on whatever that is. And techno-commercial support system is available for, specifically for electronics. We have a big testing lab facilities for RF related, product development. So just over 8 years, we realized that it's a good way to start with a good intention, but it requires a little bit more of working through to make sure that we put our stake in the ground when it comes to helping startups. And then that really pays off over a period of time. I'll give some more examples as we go along. So this is how our VSDM, VLSI, ESDM, VLSI incubation center looks. We have now specifically aiming a certain segment of our ESDM sort of incubator to work on electronic products with the help of some of these established players in the industry. And this is also funded by Government of Karnataka. So looks like in the next 12 to 18 months, we should see some real good developments happen here. We have industry people now have come in and taken over the leadership role. So I think we should really feel good about the specific effort that has been put into hardware products. Again, as a part of quickly, the reason I would like to highlight two such support system on campus. One is the Makerspace and second one is the EEL, Electronics Enabling Lab. Makerspace is sort of a lab that you walk into and then with an idea and then possibly walk out with a proof of concept. Support is provided by industrially trained operators, either it's a CNC machine or a PCB etching machine or whatever that you would like to use. Close to about 10,000 square feet of space is there. A lot of students work there. So the one other idea of having the students as well as the startups come in and work there is because this connection that happens, which leads into some fruitful relationship in the future. That's what the idea behind that. EEL, a new kid on the block, started with the help of Department of Science and Technology funding. Now can do variety of antenna design and testing and prototyping facilities. We still are not a certification center yet, but we are a pre-certification test. And this is now managed by a professionally run industry because we do not have the RF capability on campus. We realize that. And that shouldn't be our limitation. So with this, we are aiming at students to come and get interested in RF and then do more in that. Faculty, two of them have been identified to work very closely with this center so that we build the capabilities needed for future curriculum development or something of that sort. And the actual products that the startups bring in to get tested, hopefully will add more to the slew of products that would be coming from Hubli in terms of electronic products, and especially the hardware products. So what is the impact of all that is being done? Since 2012 February, we have been in business. It's over 8 years now. So we have seen about 73 companies being incubated here. Many have closed, many have graduated, and we realize that there is a life cycle for these startups. Personally for us, we have learned how to identify the traits in a set of people who come and say that they would like to start a business. We are now a lot more choosier than what we used to be before. Earlier, quantity was more important because, as I said, we wanted to develop a quick success in terms of having inhabitants come. But now quality is we can afford to press on quality. So naturally, it becomes a little bit more of challenge for the startups to join in unless they have some valid idea. We have added about 600 new engineering jobs, which is precisely what we set out to do to begin with. So this is in fact a great satisfying outcome that I have seen, and I'm sure this can even go further as we go along, and that's the hope and wish. As I mentioned earlier, over 24 student startups have come through, and lastly, about 500 students with internship. Now with AICTE mandating internship, imagine your students are right next to you, and it's very easy to monitor, and mentor and then sort of coach them in case they're not focused in terms of internship. So that gives a substantial amount of control over the to the faculty also. So that is precisely what is happening on the campus as an impact of KLEC time. So how does this entrepreneurship flow on campus? Not going to talk about too much in detail, but what we have seen is there is a I2P, P2P, and P2M type of flow. We have to have an idea, and typically with the students, I'm talking more in terms of the campus now, students have tons of ideas. Now, 1 or 2, 3 of them can be projectized. So idea to project, there is a life cycle. Once a project is done, typically they get the credits, marks, and some of them go happy and then they are done with it. But some of them think that, okay, if this project is something really cool, then why don't I convert into a product? And once if that product is realized either through proof of concept or prototype, then how do we sort of start looking into the business aspect of it taking to the market? So I2P typically happens because everybody starts with an idea and then they do the project, get their academic credits, and then they move away. But the P2P and the P2M is where I think the incubators can play a role. How does this work? Again, the CETA acts as a pivot in terms of looking out and scoring for best projects, better projects, and then better teams. In fact, we had one team with 4 mechanical engineering students, started with a project. They had an idea. They saw one of their uncle having a walker, couldn't sit because the walker only lets you stand and then walk. So they started looking into how do they embed a seat into that. Now, what started as a simple idea, they had to learn the type of the material to use. So they learned from this. This is when they were in second semester, by the way. So they sat with the senior students to learn about the finite element analysis so that they could actually model it, design the chair, design the materials, and they made about 20 of them. And those project to product where they learned a whole lot over 2 semesters, and they could actually go and then sell with a 30% markup. Now, after the 20 sales, they decided that they would like to stay focused on academics because their choice was that. But one thing what they said is, sir, now we know what does it take to transform an idea, validate that idea, build a proof of concept, and then see whether it's a business viability is there to take it to the market. And that is precisely what an entrepreneurship should focus on campus. Because if not today, they definitely would come back to this learning of theirs and then start using it to make a better product for a better quality of living for people around them. And that is precisely what engineering is aimed to do. Okay, so now I'll just quickly touch upon some of the interventions. As I said, this is an experiential learning for all of us. So I'm just sharing our experience. So if you see the I2P, P2P, and P2M on the left-hand side of mine, and we have experienced entrepreneurs who can come and then really plug directly into KLE Tech startups, that is the KLE CETA. With students, we have a variety of activities, and the student community is the largest number on campus. Hence, we have a variety of activities like Pupa, Ideation Camp, Butterfly, and these are various interventions that are open for everybody, irrespective of their branch, age, gender, socioeconomic background. None of that can be a limitation. And all these are now managed by students under the banner of Make in BBB. And we also have a few programs to sort of bring learning of entrepreneurship into academics in the form of a minor in entrepreneurship. So all together, as you could see, the learning is gradual and it is funnel shaped. That means you start with large number of students on the Pupa. By the time the capstone track starts, there are like 50 or 60 people or students who really know why they are there, and they would actually drive the product, and it has a good potential to become a startup. I have seen 5 such capstone projects converting themselves into a product and into a startup. So that's why I think it is definitely doable on any campus. And at one point of time, we decided that global focus has to be there. So in collaboration with University of Massachusetts and Nanjing University, we have a student exchange program wherein students would learn only one thing. If they have a technology idea, how do we do a business validation using that idea? Now, this is not taught in engineering. So this is definitely a great value addition for engineering graduates, because now they can actually see the idea their baby is good enough to be marketed across, because without which nobody appreciates what is being done. It's just a technology project, but not really a market viable product. So that is precisely what was added as an intervention. Quickly to touch upon, Pupa is essentially product development and a quick entrepreneurship way of learning. Every team that signs up, we give 500 rupees seed capital, irrespective of which institution they are from. They will be given 3.5 weeks. At the end of 3.5 weeks, they must actually build something. But there is only one condition: whatever they build, they must sell it. And on one day, after the 3.5 weeks, we will call all of them in. They will have to borrow their product that is being sold and bring it to the campus and show and tell us how much profit did they make, what was the learning from them from this exercise. And in last 6 years, we have grown almost 20 times, and over 30 different institutions across the region participate in this product. In this product idea. Then we follow what we call as an ideation camp, wherein this raw learning from Pupa now systematically converted into a template-based 2.5-day workshop as to how do you start from ideation, how do you pitch it, validate it, and eventually see how the results are measured. So this precisely what we want to have students walk away with. Everybody is an engineer because the degree certificate says that. Everybody has some skills developed over 4 years, but what are we going to do with this degree certificate and the skills that we have acquired in terms of making somebody's life a whole lot more better, simpler, and less expensive? And if you leave with those kind of challenges, I'm sure the process will guide them to get to that. And lastly, Butterfly is the technology business plan, which is the leading into a capstone project track, as I had mentioned earlier. And all of them seriously have led into startup ideas, and many companies have started coming individually from these programs. So that is why we know that it works. Some of these quick pictures, we just quickly run through because. So I had put these 3 challenges in the beginning of the presentation. No successful model to emulate, regional economy impact, is it really going to happen or not, we are not sure, and no such examples of commercially successfully available products from the campus. So these were 3 challenges that we set out to find answers for. So the first one, no successful incubation model. Currently, CTI, we proudly say that we have 30 tech startups here at this point of time, and many of them are from a serial entrepreneur. Now understand, a serial entrepreneur don't do the same mistake twice. So if they have been coming here and then doing it on and off again and again, that tells that we are doing something right here. Student startups on the rise, which is one of the metrics that we are following, and 8 companies have graduated because now they have a revenue stream now moving to Tech Park. And in the process, we got recognized by MSME, MeitY, and then DST, which, as I mentioned, is our connection with the government agencies, which has really helped, in fact, immensely helped. The second challenge was impact of incubation and entrepreneurship on North Karnataka economy. As I mentioned already, 600 plus jobs, 2 companies over 150 crore valuation, and we are now looking into setting up our target. Can we do something at least in next 3 years, something similar that we can continue to claim, and an innovative startup ecosystem which attracts the right kind of talent, which is really important. As I said, the mentors that are coming into the campus now, they're completely unrelated to what we do. Many of them have business basics, business background, and they come here because they know some value creation is happening. So how do we, our challenge is not even doing this. Our challenge is how do we sort of share this, the activities that are happening on the campus and telling people that, look, this is what is happening. Why don't you come and then shake hands with us? And that is something that we are actually seeing happening right now. A lot of IP related progress being seen by faculty as well as students, which is definitely should have happened and would happen, continue to happen. Lastly, the commercially successful technology products from campus. Many companies like Lab in App, which just graduated and moved to Bangalore, Shilpa Biological, they're all now being sold across the globe. So, which was really unthinkable 10 years ago. Today, we are actually seeing the products being shipped from Hubli, and that gives an immense satisfaction in terms of something that wasn't there now can be seen and experienced here. Variety of high-tech areas where companies are working. So this helps in enhancing our curriculum also, enhancing our student experience in terms of better problem definitions for their internship or projects. And that's precisely can be realized working closely with the startups. And of course, in the process, it will be imperative for us to look into how do we encourage research, monetize research, and then sort of publicize for the benefit of the humanity. So let me summarize what have we learned, because I think this is probably of important to everybody else. I'm just summarizing the 8 years worth of experience into this one slide. We think that what we have learned is, if you want to get into entrepreneurship, get early, start right away. And if you have an entity called a campus incubator, you must run it like a startup. And that is precisely how I am held against the performance of the incubator. We have a board which meets regularly, and we need to give them what is the next quarter or 6 months is going to look like, come back and then review that. So definitely is run like a startup, and it's a different experience to be like that on an educational institution. Got to have a strategic plans. One thing that we also did, which I didn't mention, is we started looking into what are our strengths. what are we really good at? How can we use these strengths to sort of align with our objectives and develop a strategy as we go along? One strategy that we have, or objective that we have, is, as I said, increase the number of jobs that are created in the region. Second one is enhance the women entrepreneurship in the region. So now we are using our connects with the local Thai chapter, local MSME, and then trying to see how we can play together so that the strengths of the region, strength of our institution can come together and then get our goals realized. So big deal is the stakeholders. The students are the key, faculty and the community. The biggest challenge that students would come back and complain to you is of the resistance from their parents, which we have seen on many occasions as to, hey, why is my son or daughter is not like everybody else? Why is he or she not finishing 8th semester, flash a degree, get a job, walk away with the badge hanging around their neck, so we can get them sort of settled in the life? Big challenge, no direct answers, no best answers for that. It has to be dealt on an individual basis, but truly is a challenge going forward. So we need to sort of have some sort of excitement created in what we do, so that at least the parents also get to see why their wards are coming here and then how they're spending their time here. Good mentor base is critical. We suffered from this problem for almost the first 3-4 years. But today I am very happy to say that I think it is the startup quality that has prompted many mentors to take us seriously. So we have regular mentor meetings and over the phone these days because of the lockdown, but it hasn't stopped. And that is very important aspect that I would like to highlight. The mentorship did not stop because they couldn't come to the campus physically. So good mentors, right mentors, and sort of relevant mentors, I think that is where most of our efforts has to go in, because they will do the job for us once if they are connected to it meaningfully. And scaling up of the startups, the incubator has to provide that. So we earlier started with only with physical space. Soon we tied up with the maker space. Soon we start, building this EEL, Government of Karnataka facilities for VLSI and then ESDM. So now, it's like we keep on adding these additional facilitation for the startups, because we are not in 2012 anymore. 2020 requirements are much different, and over 8 years, we have gradually added up these things because it makes so much more sense to startups. They don't have to go outside of the campus to get anything done. The partnering with the long-term sustenance is especially with the services that we are unable to provide on our own, whether it's IP protection, IP support, or it's a company secretary support, or even the taxation, legal issues, establishing chartered accountant, establishing some common understanding between the entities in the local region and the incubator can really get a lot of value for our startups. We have successfully done with the company secretary, chartered accountant, and some of the IP related matters. So this really pays for itself if we put effort in there. And lastly, whoever does this, they must do it for the sake of the joy that they derive out of this. I know teachers have their responsibilities set out, but at the same time, entrepreneurship is a completely different ballgame. There is no hierarchy here. It's not like I know better than you. And a set of people who enjoy each other's capability and abilities and are open enough to discuss and then debate about what is being done. I think that environment energizes everybody. I think that is precisely, everybody will get the best out of this. So my suggestion is being, enjoy what you do. I think that pays for itself in terms of what you get out of this whole effort that you put in. So that is pretty much what I had in mind in terms of sharing our business practices. But I would be happy to take any questions from now till the end of the session.
Hello.
Hello.
Dr. Kulkarni. Hello.
Hello. Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, it was a wonderful session. I will introduce myself. I am Dr. Sanjay Lakde, Dean R&D of Pimpri-Chinchwad College of Engineering. And now we are establishing this setup in our institute also. We have already academic partnership with Atal Incubation Center, Pinnacle Group of Industries. And we are now applying for MSME and again another incubation center from Niti Aayog. So I have two questions. How much stake do you have in this graduated entrepreneur, graduated startups from your incubation center? And for how many years you take that stake? And what is your experience regarding the stake that we should take or not?
Okay. The first thing is we have a separate building called KLE Tech Park, which is where we have these graduated companies move in. It's about 12,000 square feet at this point of time. We are adding 5,000 square feet more as we speak. So that is where most of these companies will be, sharing their facilities. The second question of yours is being a tier 2 city and not having the luxury of some of the metros in terms of having that ecosystem around us. We have not mandated the duration of which they can stay. So what does this mean? We initially have them start a agreement of about 3 years, and we know the 3-year time has almost coming to an end in the January month of 2021. So there is a good possibility that we might extend it by a couple of more years, because there is a lot of activity that is happening between the startup and those startups and the institution. And for them also, they find that they can get their business done being in Hubli. So till such day that they outgrew the facilities that we provide here, I think we would like to at least extend their stay here by 2 more years. But that is purely based on our, as I mentioned, socio-economic conditions in the region. But Sanjay ji, I couldn't understand, listen the third question clearly. Can you repeat, please?
That is regarding the stake. How much amount
Okay.
of stake?
Good question. Well, we are now only seeking rent from the startups. Let me remind you, in 2019 January, we were not even charging rent. The reason was, again, as I mentioned, to sort of kickstart this culture which was absolutely absent in the region. But starting January 2019, we have been collecting rent. But now, after almost 2 years, we are working on a proposal to seek equity. We have not finalized it yet, but we are looking into the possibility as to how much it should be and on what circumstances and when to get it. Those are being worked out as we speak.
As it is mentioned in our national innovation and startup policy of MHRD and AICTE, that maximum up to 9.5% of the stake that we should take.
Right. Right.
What you have decided or not yet decided?
No, we haven't. I understand one thing. I think it is much complex than just somebody saying go take anything less than 9.5%. The first question that if I to be a startup, I am going to ask, you are giving me space and some support system. If I have to give you, say, 5% of the stake in my company, is it really worth it? Okay, because see, operational support is one, intellectual support is the second thing. So now with the EEL, which is Electronic Enabling Lab, and such facilities which they don't get anywhere, I can now go in and say that, look, by being here, you have a great advantage leveraging these facilities, for which they might think into the equity model. But purely based on the rent and then some low-hanging fruit services, it's challenging for us to go in and say that just because you are here, you can you need to pay us so much money. Understand one other thing: the real estate is really cheap right now, unlike the earlier days. So if they are paying about 5,000 rupees per month to me, they might as well get a 2-bedroom apartment somewhere in the same price. I mean, I'm just trying to see from their perspective. So what do we offer that makes it so irresistible for them to stay on campus, for which we say, okay, give me X percentage of stake in your company, which now that is exactly what we are working on. So more than the percentage, I think this value proposition positioning is what we are deliberating with the board members right now.
Yeah, that is very good. What we now I'll just within a minute I will tell you that we are in the hub of almost 6,000 MSMEs, and we have a very good network with industry, and as well as we have created our Fab Lab with CNC, VMC, TIG, MIG, all fabrication facilities, all software available with the students. We have a product innovation lab, and our innovation center open 24/7 with all facilities available in the lab. Now, the major concern regarding this is the student mindset. The mindset of the student is not inclined towards starting their enterprise. Now that is going to change because of this pandemic situation, as the jobs are going down and so many other challenges. So what is your observation about the mindset of students going for entrepreneurship or startup?
Honestly speaking, this is given to us. The environment of students being this way, and then the socio-economic conditions, the political situations around the globe, globalization, they're all our endowments. Now, I cannot make somebody an entrepreneur. Now, entrepreneurship is something that they should get the taste and feel for it, for which they are willing to be part of. I can, as I said, the example that I gave of the mechanical students who came to the level of selling 20 such products, made some decent money. My hope was they are going to continue. But the fact of the matter is something else, because these are the formative ages for the student, 18 to 22 is really something that they change the outlook towards their life and career. So it is okay to accept that that is how they are. Now, naturally, one thing is, it's good if all that the investment that you have made in some of these students would fructify into they starting their business. But nonetheless, there is one thing that I'm very sure of. If they experience that with you and are happy that they experience something that they never could do if they were not with you, they would come back to you. Maybe it's 3 years from now, 5 years from now, but a whole lot more prepared rather than just an ad hoc entry into startup. So that is how I am looking at it.
Yeah, one more quick question, that if what happens that pre-incubation is basically for our own students. We have around 4,500 students in the campus. But will it be a good thing that we should allow the outside students? We are allowing, but what percentage we should think about allowing the outsiders to come in the campus and start their startup?
Sir, again, I have a little bit a different outlook, because coming from the industry, see, the more we have our students interact with somebody who is capable and can demonstrate better, our students' quality goes up. Let's say you permitted certain students coming from a different institution, what they could do using your facilities is something that your students see to, that that's an eye opener for them. Now imagine the learning has happened without the absence of a teacher. Now I would not really suggest any percentage, but as long as you do not impact the quality of the time that your students get in the facilities, I'm 100% open for having others come in and do, because we find one thing again that has humbled me as a teacher is because we should always stop judging students just by look and then feel the way they speak, whether they know good English or not, should be the last way of judging somebody. So if I don't know anything about that person, I would rather encourage him or her to come and spend some time. If they don't fit in there, they would wither away. But if they can really bring in that influence and can connect with our students, and together they can learn, this collaborative learning, that environment can never happen unless we permit it to happen. So I think it's a fabulous opportunity for you to extend it.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. So it was a very interactive and very good session. And I think it is going to help us. I'll hand over to Shinde, madam. Pratisanya.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, sir.
One more participant want to ask the question. Madam, you were asking.
Yeah, I have some doubts. Shall I?
ma'am. Yeah.
Sir, it was a really wonderful session because we were planning for a number of months to have your session in campus at PCCOE. But somehow we couldn't get you at PCCOE. I'm very happy for this lockdown period. At least we are able to see on the screen. Sir, very nicely you started with engineering, how it will solve problems, how to make the engineering students with 4 years to solve problems. You know, we also try our best to make some ideas to become a project becomes product. But where we get struck is, I know you also in the initial years, you would have found it very difficult to market a product. So how did you set up that environment of marketing the product? Who had been your mentors? How you identified the mentors? This is my first question, sir. What was the
Okay.
challenge in finding the right mentor? Because as a faculty with 21 years of experience and head of department, I find it very difficult to judge a product. I'm not able to do, because when students come and say an idea and product, and they build a product also, but judging is very difficult. So how did you find the right mentor?
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
It's a very loaded question. I will try to answer in a manner that is, useful. One thing is for sure, engineers are arrogant about two things. One is finance, second one is selling. Selling is something that they hate. I'm not talking generally, but in general. So that is why if you see the pupa activity that we do, which is the first experience for students without even coaching, mentoring, training, nothing. We will give you 500 rupees, build something, but just don't impress your parents saying that, look what I made in 500 rupees. Find out who is interested to buy that product, because ultimate recognition for an engineering solution is somebody saying, I would like to buy it. So I want students to experience it. And I tell them during our orientation that it is okay to feel good that you have built a product. What good is it if there are no takers? So imagine that when you go in and buy a cell phone, you buy a cell phone based on your requirement. So understand as a customer, how do you think? And if you're an engineer, start putting those customer expectation in your product. So there is a scope for technology supremacy also. However, it doesn't and shouldn't stop there. It should now go out and then tell, look, my product can do this, whereas the other products doing similar are either expensive or they are not available. One example I would like to quickly give it to you. Now, these COVID-19, everybody uses sanitizers and stuff like that. Sanitizers, they have to press it to get the sanitizer out from the pump. And many students came up with an idea that it's a foot pedal operated or, the sensor kind of thing. Now, everybody builds it from 500 rupees to 1000 rupees and things like that. So, in fact, one student just sent me a message, sir, I have built this. He sent a video also. Now, my question to him is very simple. Who is interested in your problem? Whose problem are you solving? And if you know who they are, why don't you just go in and talk to them? Look, I am saving you either time or money or effort in doing something without compromising on the quality. Now, if they are impressed with what you show and do, naturally, you don't need to say anything more. The sale happens. Second thing that coming back to your question as to why it is difficult is because we never teach them to become salespeople. You do the project can do fabulous things, but can you talk about these projects for 3 minutes? They absolutely are clueless when it comes to what to say. They talk about something which is absolutely non-value add than saying my product can, save you so much. It is done on this and it is available right now. If they can be confident enough to say and then start thinking from the customer-centric approach, this brings to my biggest complaint about the engineering education in India. All that we do in engineering education is around the books. None of these engineering solutions that we teach or have them understand are built with the customer in mind. So if there is no customer in mind, anything that I do is okay, because who is going to validate it other than the teachers? And that is where I see the 250 projects that KLE Technology University does from last 70 years till 2015, only none of them could be commercialized. These are all smart people. So my question again, coming back to, we don't teach them to think with the customer in mind. So that has to happen even before they can start developing the product. So when they have an idea, that is why we encourage thousands of ideas. Out of that, maybe 3, 4, 5, or 10 of them might have the capability to really connect to the customer. Once if you tell them how to do this, they will immediately click onto the idea that if I do this, there are buyers. If I don't do this, then I will not be able to sell it. What is the point in making it? So this is precisely what is required, conveying the value proposition effectively across. And I also tease them, look, this, the other end is not a teacher. The other end is a customer. So how do you carry forward your value statement such that he or she gets impressed and they are willing? And the ultimate test is, look, I want to buy now. I'll give you one other example before taking too much time. One of the team during PIPA did this sound enhancer for the cell phone. You know, the cell phone speakers now can be enhanced. So they made this from a wood, and they did about 3 of these products as a part of the prototype, and they made the picture of it, and then they took it to the printing shop to make the posters for publicity and marketing. There's one middle-aged lady who came and she saw the product in the hand and said, what is this? So they were excited to show, and they kept the cell phone with the song on it, and then the sound quality was different. That lady said, I would like to buy. How much? So they actually made a sale there in the shop. Now, when they came back and told me that experience, I said, this is precisely what an engineer is supposed to do. If you are technologically hungry, go for it. But at one point, the technology must meet the common man's need and create interest in their mind, or else it just becomes academic. So I think we need to continue to tell them that who cares about this, why do they care, how is it better? I think that slowly have them bring it along.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Many questions are there. I'll get back to you later, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Open to
You're
others.
welcome.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Sir, in a life cycle of a startup, exactly when we have to involve the industries, when we have to approach the industry for a partnership or maybe for mentoring?
Madam, I think that has to be an ongoing process, because see, mentorship or even some sort of abilities that we do not have, if we are trying to get it from the industry, it can be in the area of technology mentorship, it can be in the area of business mentorship, it can be in the area of go-to-market strategy, it can be anywhere. And not one person can find with the solution for all these. Just let me again give an example. I have an idea to build something, right? At this point of time, I need somebody who, without questioning and poking my intention, would help me understand what this product is all about. So I need a job. But once if the product idea is finalized, I need a technology mentor. When the POC is ready, I need the production guy who can help mentor me with the right kind of material, right kind of components, assembly techniques. With that, I need to talk to a business mentor. So I would suggest in the life cycle of a startup, whatever may be, but as an incubator, we must always stay. Hello?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
No problem, madam.
One more last question from my side, sir. Like suppose if you want to apply for funding for startup, for getting a funding. So to where to apply so that we can get easily funding, and how we have to be ready before applying. Like,
okay, the first thing that we need to do is to identify, as I mentioned, why do we want to start a campus ecosystem? Okay, that answer has to, you need, as I said, strong motive to do that. Second thing is, what is, let's say if we start today and run for 5 years, what is that we expect this incubator to do? So those 3 or 4 objectives also, I think you should write in collaboration with the people involved. Once if that is done, take the first step, start getting the startups. I have seen that if you have taken the first step, when you apply for funding, the funding getting is a lot more easier because you're already in there. Many I've seen people coming in and sharing their plans as to how they want to do, and the funders usually are not very enthusiastic about the plans, but they are enthusiastic about what you have already done, so they are willing to support you. I would definitely suggest to start with those things. In fact, I have a checklist that I have made. Maybe I will mail it to Swati madam, and it's a good way to sort of introspect and then build it. We are planning to conduct a day-long workshop, but because of this, it couldn't happen. But anyway, I will send that checklist to Swati madam, who probably can share it with you all.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Any question again? Ketan, sir, any question? Any more questions are there?
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, madam.
Yeah, I would like to really say thanks to Kulkarni sir, as it was an amazing session. So actually, I do not have any question as such, but would really like to say thanks, because nearly he has solved all the doubts in my mind. So thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate it.
Okay, I think there are no more questions.
Okay.
Can we sum up the session? Yes,
Okay, I
sir.
would like to actually acknowledge, yours and Rajeshwari madam and your institution support in setting this up. Thank you so much. It means a whole lot to me.
Yes, sir. Thank you for excellent session. Many have given the comment also. So thanks for the session, sir.
Okay. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Yes, sir. Madam, should we end the session?
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yes, madam, we can end the session. We'll get back to sir again. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Bye, sir.
Thank you.